Welcome to MWEB's Entrepreneur Zone. Today I've got Bertus Basson with me, the serial food entrepreneur. Welcome, Bertus.
Thank you, Paul. How are you doing?
Good. Tell us more about your adventures.
Sure, at the moment I'm doing quite a bit. My main focus is my restaurant called Overture in Stellenbosch, and I spend most of my time there. But from there things branch out, and I'm involved with a catering company with my business partner Craig runs. We've got a hot dog caravan, Overture, that goes around to festivals and shows and does hot dogs. We do wine. We do quite a bit of catering and outside work, quite a bit of consulting. And then above all of that, I've also got a bit of involvement with a TV show called the Braai Master, which is loads of fun.
And you've been involved with food from a young age?
All my life. It's all I've ever done. So surprisingly, I meet people and always ask me, so what did you do before restaurants? And there was no before restaurants. It was always just restaurants. and then that developed into something else.
And restaurants and food is a notoriously difficult industry with high failure rates.
Yeah.
What do you think the secret to succeeding is?
You know, I think that the biggest issue, as with any business, is that there needs to be somebody who cares. And people always ask me, so how do you keep your restaurant winning awards? And it's not really me that wins the awards, it's actually my staff. So in the front lines, I've got a wonderful manager that's been with me for about 5 years, Tembi. And in the kitchen, I've got Adele, my sous chef. And those two people really care for my business as much as I do. And that's what's important. And also rewarding them accordingly, to make them feel like their care is warranted. So that's the only way that we can keep our business going is by people who care. And it's as simple as that.
And that obviously stems through to how you treat your customers and how you get that service
Actually,
right.
interesting, we don't have customers in my restaurant, we've only got guests. A customer in my mind is somebody who buys a chocolate in a corner store. A guest is somebody who comes and joins you for lunch. And we treat our guests like guests. It's incredible. So the word customer for us is pretty much a swear word. And somebody actually only becomes a customer once they've paid their bill. But before they pay their bill, they're still our guest.
And you were telling me earlier that you still keep control of your social media and your PR, so you still keep a very close relationship.
You have to know what you sign when you sign it. So we read those sort of things very carefully. We run our PR pretty much all from in-house, to be honest. We've got someone who looks after social media for us ourselves, just so we know what goes out. And everything that goes out, we try and control. It allows you to measure people's perceptions of you or your business a lot easier.
And obviously your participation in the Ultimate Braai Master, what's the impact been on your businesses with that?
You know, it's been huge. In the past, I think people thought that we were quite a exclusive, fancy restaurant on the top of a mountain, and only a very small portion of the South African market really knew who we were. And the exposure we've had has been incredible. So it's been amazing how just ordinary people would approach and say, I like to braai, and I like to watch a show. And we've seen it filter through the restaurant as well, where people, just ordinary people who would never have thought of driving all the way up to Overture for a dinner, would just do it because they've seen it on the show or they've seen us on the show, and it's quite heartfelt actually. You know, it makes us very proud that people, just ordinary people who might have never have experienced something like Overture before, instead of going to a different restaurant, choose us for a special occasion. It really is special.
And are you starting to see a change in the nature and what South Africans want in terms of food?
Definitely. I think South Africans are actually quite clued up when it comes to food. Our market's obviously quite small, but the kind of questions people are starting to ask is not sort of where's your foie gras from, but they want to know that the bread is fresh, and they want to know that the beef is free range. And food has become a lot more basic. So, and I actually thank the recession for that. You know, the recession was tough for all of us, and it still is for a lot of businesses. But even friends of mine who would eat out 3 or 4 times a week, eats out once a month now, but they cook at home. And it's really brought food back to people. The fact that we've learned how to almost cook again.
And how do you stay on top of the trends and being creative and bringing in new things?
The only way that we can stay creative is through ingredients. And we've got a wonderful network of South African food growers and purveyors that look after us. So, you know, from the guy that grows the carrots to the woman that makes the free-range pig, you know, who grows the pigs for us, we've got a relationship with most of these people. So I can be on my way to work in the morning and the cell phone will ring and it'll be the fish guy that says, how's it? Today there's no more yellowtail, but it's Jacopever. And that's where the creation starts. That's like, cool. I phone the restaurant and say, listen, there's no more yellowtail, it's Jacopever today, I've ordered 20 kilos, change the dish. That's the way it works. So the creativity is very sporadic.
And that must create quite a bit of pressure in the kitchen?
As I said to you earlier, change is the only constant. And without change, I would be bored to death. So we like the fact that things change around us. The menu must change. If the menu doesn't change, we'll never progress. And it's with anything in your life. If you don't change the way that you do business, you'll never progress. But it does add a lot of pressure, changing. I mean, we'll change amazing things on just sort of because we have to. The way that we do business, for example, will just change because we need to. You know, you come to a point where change is now.
But obviously there's high pressure in the kitchen. How do you deal with your staff under conflict situations, under high pressure situations?
In the past, it was just sort of like fire and brimstone. You know, now we'll sort of just write things out, and I've become a bit calmer, and I've realized that you can handle situations better if you're calm and the other person's calm. Then we're fine, and we stress later. There's exceptionally high pressure in the kitchen. I mean, the levels of pressure we deal with on a daily basis is ridiculous. It's timing, which is important. We look for perfection, and we're constantly under public scrutiny. We deal with it quite well. So lately, I'm more inclined to take the guy aside, have a cup of coffee, say to him, look, I'm unhappy with the way that you work, you're late, your work ethic, your hygiene, your speed, and make him understand that he's making mistakes, and then hopefully fix it from there. If it gets really heated, the best advice I've ever had for anybody is walk away. That's it. Send the oak home, say to him, come back tomorrow for a meeting. Get out of my face before you do or say anything that you'll regret, and that's it. So just be able to walk away.
Restaurants are popular to open, but they also have a high failure rate.
Massively.
What do you think someone that's considering starting a restaurant needs to bear in mind if they're going to be successful?
Opening up restaurants are exciting. It's like giving birth and watching this thing grow. But if you don't have an invested interest in this business, and if you're not trained in a serious aspect of the hospitality industry, then reconsider. So the training parts would, for example, be, you know, I'm a chef. That's what I do. But I also understand restaurants because I've spent a lot of time working in them before I opened up my own. If you, for example, a great front of house manager, and you can employ a good chef to manage, then you'll be okay, because your biggest focus in your business will be the front of house, would be looking after guests, which is a wonderful thing. So you would have a restaurant that will be service focused and also with good food. You know, when I started off, my focus was definitely good food, and service came later, and that was a bit of a mistake. I should have, you know, definitely invested more in service in the beginning. Now we're fantastic, but in the first year or so, we struggled a bit. So I have a real interest in one part of the hospitality industry, either food, wine, or service. One of those things must really be what you live to do for you to be able to make it work.
And you really like the food industry. You also got catering business and your van. Tell us more about those two.
The van was an interesting business. We started it about a year and a half ago, and we built the whole business. So buying a small caravan, branding it, website, the whole toot. I think it cost about $120,000. And that was it. And we started, and yes, it was really interesting. It was quite quirky. And here's this top 10 eat-out chef making hot dogs, which is just, you know, it's quite contradictory, but it works. And we started going around to festivals and markets and selling our hot dogs, and it worked like a bomb. And we learned a valuable lesson out of the business, is that we can do really good resource management. So at Overture, for example, we make everything ourselves. We bake the bread, we make the ice cream, we make all the stocks and sauces, we clean the fish, we butcher the animal, everything from scratch. With the caravan, we came up with a recipe for a really good frankfurter, and we had it made by a butcher. We came up with a really good roll, and we had it made by a baker. And we just bring these resources together into a good product. And that was the first lesson we learned, was that we can resource manage. The second lesson we learned was that you don't have to have massive capital expense. So you don't have to build R1 million business to make money. You can do it with $100,000. Okay? And if you do it with the right attitude and a bit of quirkiness, it'll work.
You must be very busy with all your different pursuits. How do you manage your time and your energy?
We look at it as different hats. I don't mind wearing the Overture hat, taking it off and then putting on a hot dog hat, and taking that one off and then putting on a Braai Master hat. The thing is that you've got to be able to distinguish between all these different things. They're not all the same. And I try really hard to distinguish between them. So for example, the Braai Master is a very big part of my life. It's not Overture. And I try and keep those two entities apart, to be honest with you. Although the caravan is a big part of my life, it's also not Overture. So, you know, we really try and split the entities up, and we market them differently. And not two different markets. You can come to Overture and have a meal that's going to cost you $500, or you can go to the caravan and eat a hot dog. And we hope that you're going to have a great experience doing both. Although it's different experiences, they must be great experiences. So we try and just split up in our heads what we do well, it's difficult to do, but it works for us. We can wear those different hats and caps and make different things work.
And with your jobs, you've got to travel around South Africa and see quite a bit of it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Tell us about the entrepreneurial feeling that you get in the country.
People in South Africa do what they do firstly out of necessity. The people have got to survive. South Africa is great for that. South Africa is almost like the Wild West, you know, of new ideas, and not. I always used to say the Wild West of business, but it's not really, because we do pay our tax, and you can't break those rules. You can't break. There's certain rules you can't break. You've got to pay people. You've got to pay tax. You've got to keep to ethical rules of business. But when it comes to ideas and the expression of your ideas, South Africa is wonderful, because you can do whatever you want. You don't have to be. You can be a non-conformist in South Africa with really interesting ideas and make it work. That's what makes us special.
Bertus, you involved in a number of different projects. What's next for you?
In the future, I'm hoping to do a lot of simpler dining, to be honest with you. So, but I'd like to do a smaller restaurant, not a smaller restaurant, probably a bigger restaurant, but somewhere that's just chilled. We want to serve great wine. I love wine, and serve sort of South African classics with a bit of a twist to people, to normal people. I want families to come and eat. You know, it's just makes so much more sense for me, and all South Africans. You know, and that's the kind of space that I would like to have one day. Is where you want to bring your kids to. You want to have a beer. Your wife can have a glass of wine. Eat delicious South African food that's fresh and healthy, and not worry about the environment.
Thank you very much. That brings us on to the rapid fire questions.
Cool.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Keep in context, never lie.
And your best moment as an entrepreneur?
Winning an eat-out spot in the eat-out top 10 for the first year that we opened up.
And your biggest mistake?
Opening up too many businesses at the same time.
What quality do you look for in people that you work with?
I just look for great attitude, to be honest with you. I can teach all the skill in the world, but I can't teach great attitude.
And what do you think an entrepreneur needs to succeed?
A strong will. You know, lots of sleepless nights, lots of stress, but strong will.
And what's the biggest inspiration to you as a business owner?
South Africans. It's an amazing country to be. Wherever I go in South Africa, I always feel inspired. It's just ridiculous.
And what would you do differently?
I'd probably choose something with shorter hours than restaurants.
What makes South Africa a good place to be a small business owner?
Your creativity can go anywhere in South Africa, and it's accepted. You know, there's no set rules.
What keeps you up at night?
I'm getting married next year, so I think that's a big prospect. It's a little bit stressful, to be honest with you, planning a wedding. The marriage I'm looking forward to. The wedding part planning is just rough.
And what gets you going in the morning?
Definitely coffee, and although I don't look like it at the moment, I'm still getting rid of some Braai Master weight after tasting. Exercise.
Bertus, thank you very much.
It's a great pleasure.
And thank you. We look forward to the coming weeks. We will bring you further South African entrepreneurs. I'm Paul Hobden. Thank you and goodbye.